Have you ever noticed that the moment you stop caring, the entire story begins to change? When you pull your energy back, when you stop chasing, when you finally decide to protect your peace over her approval, something shifts. Suddenly, the one who seemed distant, detached, and unfazed starts spiraling. She starts to wonder. That silence you gave her, that space you created, it speaks louder than any of your messages ever did. This isn't about manipulation. It's not about games. It's about stepping into your power, reclaiming your energy, and remembering exactly who you are. You were never meant to beg, to fold, or to explain your worth. You were meant to rise. This is your moment. If you've ever given too much, loved too hard, or lost yourself trying to hold someone else together, this video is your wake-up call. We're diving deep into what really happens when you stop giving a damn. Not out of spite, but out of clarity. Not to punish her, but to rebuild you. Before we begin, do one thing that helps us grow and reach others who need to hear this. Tap that like button. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss a single piece of Stoic wisdom. And drop a comment below saying, "I move for no one." Let's begin. Number 1. The fall. You gave everything. Your love, your time, your energy. You made her your world, rearranged your priorities, and put her needs above your mission. You were always there, always ready, always trying to prove your worth with your presence. But the truth is, the more available you were, the more invisible you became. She didn't walk away because you weren't enough. She walked away because you stopped being the man she first fell for. You lost your edge. You softened not from emotional maturity, but from emotional dependency. She felt it. Women can sense when a man stops leading and starts orbiting. They don't say it out loud, but they crave direction, strength, and stillness. You gave up all three to chase her approval. And she didn't reward it. She left. But here's where the fall becomes your greatest gift. It strips you bare. It shows you who you were pretending to be. It forces you to confront the truth that love without self-respect is just self-abandonment. And when you finally see that clearly, something begins to shift inside you. You stop begging. You stop pleading. You stop trying to fix someone who walked away from everything you gave. The man you were before. He dies here. And from that death, a new man is born. One who doesn't chase, but attracts. One who doesn't fold, but stands tall. One who doesn't give everything away, but guards his soul like the treasure it is. The fall hurts, yes, but it's also the fire. And from that fire, you rise. Not to win her back, but to become untouchable. You rebuild your body, your mind, your spirit. You rediscover your mission. You wake up earlier. You train harder. You speak less and do more. And in that silence, she starts to feel the absence. The version of you she once knew is gone. And the one you're becoming, he doesn't look back. Number 2. The silence. There was a time when you explained everything. You typed out long texts trying to make her understand, trying to remind her of the bond you once shared. You sent paragraphs filled with emotion, clarity, pain, desperation. But none of it changed a thing. She read them, maybe even smirked at the control she held. And with every message you sent, you gave away more of your power. That's what most men don't realize. When your presence is guaranteed, when your heart is constantly on display, it loses its weight. She stops valuing what's always there. But then something inside you finally snapped. Not out of revenge, not to play games, but out of realization. You went silent. No more texts. No more reactions. No more trying to explain what no longer needed to be justified. That silence, it wasn't empty. It was full of intent. It was a reset. A recalibration of your worth. In Stoic philosophy, silence isn't weakness. It's discipline. It's composure. It's the moment you choose restraint over reaction. And that silence, it echoes louder than anything you could ever say. She starts to feel it. The absence of your voice. The stillness where your constant energy used to be. And in that space, she begins to question. She begins to wonder. Because this silence isn't passive. It's not avoidance. It's a message. It says, I'm not here to be an option. I'm not here to convince you. I'm not here to keep bleeding for someone who wouldn't even notice. The man who once sent late-night texts, who over-explained, who stayed when he should have walked away, he's gone. In his place stands someone who chooses peace over chaos, clarity over confusion. And now, while she checks her notifications, half expecting your name to light up her screen, she's met with stillness. Nothing. That void becomes her torment. She doesn't get your voice anymore. She doesn't get your updates, your likes, your comments. You no longer orbit her world. You've become the ghost that haunts her peace. And what's worse, you're not hiding. You're healing. You're growing. You're focused. The silence she once dismissed is now the loudest sound in her mind. And you don't break it. Because real men don't announce the comeback. They become it. Quietly. Relentlessly. Stoically. Number 4, the shift. You thought being there for her meant solving everything. She brought you her chaos, and you made it your duty to calm the storm. She vented, and you listened. She spiraled, and you held the ground for both of you. You thought love was about absorbing pain that was never yours to carry. Slowly, without realizing it, you became her emotional cushion, her therapist, her safety net. But she never respected you for it. In fact, the more you showed up to patch her broken pieces, the less she valued your strength. Because what she really needed wasn't a man who bent over backwards. It was a man who stood tall for himself. The shift happens the moment you realize you are not responsible for her healing. You are not there to fix wounds that she keeps reopening. You are not there to provide endless comfort when she gives you none in return. That clarity is powerful. It hits hard. Because now you don't respond to every emotional flare-up. You don't sacrifice your peace for her crisis. You stop being her safe place when she made you feel like a disposable one. And suddenly, she feels it. The space you used to fill with your reassurance is now silent. The attention she could always count on is gone. She starts to panic, not because you're gone, but because she's finally alone with her own reflection. For the first time, she has to confront herself without you to distract her from the truth. That's what Stoicism teaches. Protect your peace. Guard your energy. Set boundaries so firm they become sacred. You can care without carrying the weight. You can love without losing yourself in the process. She starts to notice the absence of the man who always fixed things. She starts to feel the weight of her own chaos. And it shakes her. Because now, you're not bitter. You're just done. Not because you stopped caring, but because you started caring about yourself more. You shifted the focus back to your path, your mission, your balance. You stepped out of the emotional maze she kept you trapped in. And now that you've reclaimed your clarity, she no longer has access to the version of you who used to pick up every broken piece. That man is gone. In his place stands someone grounded, steady, and unshakably focused. You are not her therapist. You are not her emotional shelter. You are a man on his path. And nothing diverts that path again. Number 5, the replacement. She used to know everything about you. Your routine, your location, your feelings, even your moods before you spoke them out loud. You gave her all of that, willingly, because you thought transparency meant connection. You wanted her to feel secure, to know you were still there, still trying, still hoping. Every post, every comment, Every little breadcrumb was your way of saying I still care. But here's what you didn't see, she never had to wonder. And when a woman no longer wonders, she stops valuing. Predictability, without purpose, breeds indifference. Your presence became background noise, something she expected, not something she earned. That's where it all began to fade. So now, you go silent. Not to provoke her, but to protect your energy. You stop posting for her eyes. You stop reacting to her stories. You stop engaging with her world like you're still a part of it. No more vague quotes. No more showing her that you're still watching. You vanish. Quietly. Intentionally. You reclaim your digital space, your mental space, and your emotional space. Not with bitterness, but with purpose. And that absence, it screams louder than any word ever could. She starts to wonder. Not because you said something, but because you said nothing. Not because you posted a picture, but because she can't find you. That curiosity turns into discomfort, into regret, into self-doubt. Her mind starts spinning. Is he with someone new? Has he moved on? Is he happier without me? And the truth is, yes, you are. Because you replaced her, not with another woman, but with your mission. With purpose. With growth. You gave all that energy you once poured into her into your goals, your mind, your health. You became sharper, calmer, more refined. The man she once had full access to is no longer reachable. Not because you're hiding, but because you've elevated. Now, she checks her phone hoping to see a message. But none comes. She checks her feed looking for a sign. But it's empty. The silence is not revenge. It's your new boundary. It's the space where healing happens and where your value multiplies. You've become the question she can't answer. And that question will echo longer than any apology she might one day try to give. She is left wondering, and you, finally, are free. Number 6. The shadow. Rejection hurts, no need to pretend otherwise, but what if you stopped seeing it as a curse and started seeing it as the exact fuel you needed to evolve, not into a better man for her, but a version so elevated that even your past self wouldn't recognize you? She left, she ignored your calls, maybe replaced you so fast it made your head spin, and it tore you apart. But Stoicism teaches that we are not slaves to what happens to us, we are shaped by what we do with it. This pain you feel, this burning question of why, it is not meant to sink you, it is meant to awaken you. You were not destroyed, you were stripped of illusions, stripped of comfort, stripped of weakness, and now it is time to rebuild, stronger, colder, sharper. You take that emotional collapse and you turn it into structure. You use her silence as your discipline alarm clock, your gym motivation, your reason to build focus instead of fantasy. She may think she broke you, but the only thing she did was ignite something. Now you use the time you used to spend staring at your phone, strategizing, working, creating. You turn your pain into productivity. You stop stalking her stories and start writing your own. She might have walked away, but she gave you something she didn't intend. She gave you fire, and that fire can either burn you alive or forge you into something bulletproof. Stoicism says it best. External events are neutral. Your perception gives them meaning, so now give this rejection the meaning it deserves. Let it be the death of the weak version of you and the birth of the one who cannot be broken. While she is chasing distractions, you are building legacy. While she is looking for the next thrill, you are locking in on your mission. And when she finally realizes what she lost, you will be too far gone, too focused, too powerful. You will not be the man begging for her to see your value. You will be the man who defines it himself. That is the power of turning shadows into strength. She thought she ended something. She accidentally started something unstoppable. Number 7. The throne. She used to have your mornings, your thoughts, your nights. She had access to your focus, your time, your presence. And the worst part is, you gave it away freely. Every second you gave her came at the cost of your discipline, your purpose, your mission. She texted and you dropped your priorities. She called and you paused your grind. You were too available and she treated your time like it was worthless because you acted like it was. But now that ends, you have reclaimed the throne of your attention, and a man's attention is sacred, it is currency, and you finally realize that handing it out without value is what made you forgettable in the first place. A Stoic man guards his time like a king guards his kingdom. From this moment forward you choose where your energy goes. Your mornings belong to your routine, your nights belong to your vision, and your day is scheduled around progress, not pity. When she tries to check back and she finds silence, not out of spite but because you're unavailable now, not emotionally cold but mission-focused, the version of you that used to explain your absences is gone. This version doesn't explain, he simply moves, he builds, and as your days fill with purpose the absence she once dismissed starts to echo. She starts to notice you are no longer orbiting her world, she is no longer your priority, she is no longer part of your mental space. And that silence hits different when it's not a tactic but a lifestyle. You've leveled up and she's locked out, not because you're trying to hurt her, but because your time now belongs to your evolution. The Stoic doesn't dwell on who left his kingdom, he reinforces its walls, strengthens its foundation, and builds a legacy that can't be touched by emotion. You no longer ask what she's doing, you ask what you're building, what you're learning, what you're creating. That is the shift, that is the throne, and from here, everything changes. Your energy is no longer a gift for the undeserving, it is invested in the future you are carving out with fire in your eyes and purpose in your steps. And when she finally realizes you are no longer hers to interrupt, she will also realize she was never ready for a man like this. Number 8. The frame. You used to chase her attention like it was oxygen. Every text, every story view, every reaction was designed to remind her you were still there, still hoping, still available. You crafted your words to get noticed, changed your schedule to match hers, softened your edges just to be accepted. You lost your edge. You lost the masculine frame that made her notice you in the first place. That frame wasn't about control or arrogance. It was about presence. A Stoic man doesn't orbit anyone. He builds his center and stands unshaken. And now, after the chaos, after the heartbreak, after the silence, you've returned to that center. You no longer reach. You no longer ask if she's seen your post or liked your message. You no longer mold yourself to fit her idea of a man. Instead, you define it. You lead yourself. And through that leadership, you shift the dynamic entirely. She starts to feel it, even if she doesn't understand it. The lack of control over your energy unsettles her. The space where you used to be predictable is now filled with silence and progress. You're harder to read, harder to reach, and that mystery reignites something she lost: curiosity. But this time you're not waiting for her curiosity to turn into action. You're busy. You're focused. You've redirected your energy into your goals, your growth, your vision. Your fitness improves. Your confidence grows. Your conversations become deeper, fewer, more intentional. And suddenly, you're no longer a memory she can summon at will. You are a mystery she can't access. This is the frame. This is what Stoicism teaches: you do not chase what does not move toward you. You attract by standing firm in who you are. You don't speak to be validated. You live so that your presence speaks louder than words ever could. And now she finds herself wondering, what is he doing? Who is he becoming? Is he still thinking of me? But the truth is, it doesn't matter. Because you've elevated. You've moved beyond the frame she once knew. You are now the man that others follow, that others study, that others remember. And if she wants to find you, she'll have to rise to your level, because you're not stepping down to hers. You no longer beg for a seat at her table. You built your own. Number 9. The echo. At first, she thought your silence was temporary. A pause in the usual rhythm. A dramatic moment you'd surely break. She waited for the familiar ping, the double text, the small breadcrumb of emotion you always left behind. But it never came. You didn't reach out. You didn't react. You didn't even watch her stories. And that silence, at first invisible, began to grow louder than any argument, any apology, any explanation ever could. Because true power isn't found in how much noise you make. It's found in the presence you no longer give. She doesn't feel you when you chase. She feels you when you vanish. And now, everywhere she turns, she doesn't hear your voice, but the echo of what used to be. The good morning texts. The way you showed up. The constant emotional safety net she took for granted. It's gone. Stoicism teaches us that silence is a language, and in this moment, yours is saying everything she needs to hear. You've stopped explaining. You've stopped trying to prove anything. You've stopped being predictable. That quiet discipline becomes unsettling because she expected you to fold. But you didn't. She expected a plea. Instead, she got peace. And in that peace, she starts asking questions. Why hasn't he reached out? Did he move on? Did he finally realize his worth? And now, for the first time, she feels what you felt. Uncertainty. Doubt. Absence. The echo is powerful because it leaves her alone with her thoughts. No closure. No comfort. Just a mirror reflecting her own decisions. You didn't block her. You didn't lash out. You didn't announce your transformation. You just disappeared into your purpose. That's the Stoic move. You don't beg to be heard. You build so your silence becomes unforgettable. Let the echo do the talking. Let her feel the weight of everything she once had, everything she thought would always be there. Because now, the only version of you she has is a memory. And that memory is fading fast behind the sound of your footsteps walking towards something greater. Number 10. The Ascension. There was a time when every part of your day revolved around her. Her texts decided your mood. Her silence ruined your nights. Her approval felt like oxygen. You replayed conversations, overanalyzed emojis, waited for replies like your worth depended on it. You saw her in every song, every street, every dream. But that version of you, he's gone. Because now you've ascended. Not in rage. Not in bitterness. In clarity. She no longer lives in your head. She no longer sits on that pedestal you built with your own insecurities. Now, she's just a memory. Not a regret. Not a fantasy. A chapter that taught you who you were not, so you could become who you are. This is not about pretending she didn't matter. She did. But not in the way you once thought. She mattered because she was the mirror that exposed your self-abandonment. She mattered because her leaving was the spark that lit your rise. And now that fire has forged something she never expected. A man who doesn't need her. Not out of spite, but because he found something stronger. Himself. You no longer crave closure because you closed that door with discipline. You no longer fantasize about her return because the throne you've rebuilt sits higher than she can reach. And she sees it. Maybe she checks your stories. Maybe she hears your name in conversations. Maybe she lies awake wondering how the man who once worshipped her now lives without her. But by now, none of that matters. You're not trying to impress her. You're not hoping she sees. You're simply becoming. Stoicism isn't loud. It doesn't scream revenge. It whispers focus, purpose, clarity. You've outgrown her not because you hated her, but because you finally loved yourself enough to stop needing someone who could not hold your truth. This is ascension. It's peace that cannot be disrupted. It's purpose that doesn't waver. It's knowing you were never broken. Just buried. And now, unearthed, you are untouchable. Keep rising. You've reached the end of something most men never even begin. If you made it this far, it means something in you is shifting. You're not chasing anymore. You're not explaining. You're not waiting for a text that never comes or losing sleep over someone who already moved on. You're stepping into the version of you that doesn't beg for validation. You're becoming the man who leads his life with quiet strength and unshakable clarity. That's the Stoic path. A path where silence holds more power than shouting, where detachment brings peace, and where growth is not performed for others but lived for yourself. If this resonated with you, let it sit in your bones. Let it echo in your choices. And if you're ready to keep becoming the man who is untouchable, focused, and completely self-possessed, do one thing now. Hit that like button. Subscribe so you never miss the next evolution. And drop a comment below with the words, "I move for no one." Because when you stop giving a damn about what you can't control, the world, and yes, even she, starts to notice. Stay sharp. Stay grounded. And stay building your Stoic legacy.